Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a little different. The cat just opened my door. Hold on. Today's video is going to be a little different because I'm going to be answering all of your questions about eating disorder recovery. I asked you guys on Instagram to send in any questions that you had, either about like my own recovery or advice that you wanted or just anything that you could think of. And you guys sent in a lot of great ones, so I'll be answering some of them in this video and then I'll answer some in another video. Also, I'm sorry I look like a river rat. Is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing. A sewer rat. I look like a sewer rat right now. I literally washed my hair last night and it's still wet. Apologies. Anyways, disclaimer, just take everything I say with a grain of salt because I'm not a professional or anything like that. I'm literally just a 17-year-old girl who is talking based on her own learned experience. Anyways, let's just get into it. The first question is, did you go all in? This is kind of a loaded question. Honestly, I did not. I started my recovery like 4 years ago. I don't even remember. And that was before like the whole concept of all in was kind of like popularized. The popular method back then was like the mini mod method, so that's what I did, which is basically where like your parents like oversee all your food, and I think it's like a 3,000 calorie like minimum is like the big thing. Honestly, I don't think it worked very well for me. I really wish that like all in had been like a popular thing back then because I think it would have been really beneficial for me when I was first starting. That's kind of something that I'm struggling with now because I'm like, I want to go all in because I think that it could help me get to a place where I'm like truly fully recovered, but I'm also like, is there even a point now because I've already been doing this other method and like I don't do that anymore. Like that's what I did like when I was like weight restoring and stuff like years ago. Now I just kind of like intuitively eat, but I still feel like there's kind of a difference between intuitive eating and all in, and it's like hard to put into words, but I don't know, it's so hard to explain. This is something that like I struggle with finding the distinction like every day. Some would say that I go all in because I eat what I want, but then it's like I still like struggle with some like food rules, so it's like I don't know. The next question is, did you go inpatient? If so, what was that process of being admitted like? Were you forced? Yes, I was forced to go inpatient. I literally don't even know how long ago it was. It was somewhere between 7th and 8th grade, and I'm a senior now, so however long that is. I was trying to recover at home for like months and months, and it was not working. I was barely making any progress. I actually don't know if I was making any progress at all. I was just being very sneaky. I talked about this like in my eating disorder story video if like you want to watch that video for like more detail. But yeah, basically one day my doctor was like, okay, we can't do this anymore, like you need to go. It's like that TikTok sound, you're done. You're done. That's what that appointment was like, and I was very, very upset. I think I like threw a chair or something. Obviously it was not a fun experience, but you know, I am glad that it happened because I really don't think that I would have recovered otherwise or like started recovery. Tips for dealing with digestive issues in recovery. Oh my gosh, guys, this is something that I struggle with so much. I have a lot of digestive problems. It's become even worse because I got E. coli last year, and that left my already vulnerable digestive system with very bad effects. So this is something that I really still deal with, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate, or maybe you're dealing with bloating. That's also something that I dealt with a lot and still do. It's very uncomfortable. It's not fun, but I think the main thing that helps me get through it is remembering that like the only way for this to stop happening is to keep pushing through in recovery and repairing your body, and eventually that stuff will at least get much better, if not just go away. Just try to like distract yourself with like watching TV or reading a book, doing schoolwork, like whatever helps you. Wear comfortable clothes. Yeah, it's really all about just making yourself comfortable and distracting yourself in the moment and remembering that the only way out is through. Someone asked, how have you been doing with recovery? Any recent challenges / successes? Oh, thank you so much for asking this. Honestly, I feel like I've been doing, I don't know, pretty well. It's always hard to know. I guess I'm doing good. I'm just kind of at this stage where it feels like I'm like stuck, and I've like been here for like a year. It's like I'm like almost fully recovered, but I still have so many like thoughts, and it like consumes so much of my day that I don't want to call myself recovered. Even if I don't really use behaviors anymore, I just can't really call myself recovered when it still takes up so much of my headspace and impacts my life so much. And I still struggle sometimes with like under eating like early in the day and then like overeating at night. But you know, I'm definitely a long way from where I used to be. What do I do if my friends always talk about being skinny and they know about my ED past? This is also something that I deal with a lot, I think, with like the culture of today and like how teenagers are. It's just become so common to talk about that kind of stuff. It can be very triggering. It definitely bothers me a lot when people talk about that. I just remember that I really should feel sorry for them as opposed to being jealous of them, because if they really do go down that path, it's so miserable, and you know deep down that it's so miserable. Even if you miss it, you know in your heart that it was not fun. I just kind of have to convince myself to feel bad for them as opposed to like feeling jealous of them. It also helps me to like focus on setting a good example, because I'm like, if I resort back to my old behaviors and just like join them in what they're doing, then I'm not going to be helping them at all. But if I can set a healthy and good example, which I know is really hard because comparison is really hard, but if I can set a healthy example for them, then I'm really going to help them. Also, if they know about your past and they're saying that stuff around you, I would really encourage you to talk to them about it. I know it can be uncomfortable, but if they already know about your past, I think that like that's the scariest thing. So if you've already done that, I feel like it's kind of not a very nice move to still say those things around you, but you know, it's possible that they just forgot or weren't thinking about it. So I would just have a conversation with them and tell them that you're not really comfortable with that kind of talk, and just set a good example by doing the right thing for yourself. How to get my period. Never gotten it even before the ED and been in recovery for 10 months. I could make a whole video on just this, but honestly, I see so many posts like tips and tricks to get your period back, and it's like eat more fats and do less cardio and more strength training, and you know, that stuff is great, but you can do all that, but none of it's gonna do anything if you don't eat enough and get your body to a place where it can have a period. If you've been in recovery for 10 months, then hopefully you've been doing that. Hopefully you've been eating enough, restoring your body back to where it was. I would say if you have truly been in real recovery, you just kind of have to wait. It can take different amounts of time for everyone. Some people never lose their period. Some people, it takes like 2 years to get it back. It took me, I think, a year. Yeah, I think it was like almost exactly a year. If you are concerned and feeling like it's been a long time, you can always bring it up to a doctor, because obviously I am not a doctor. A doctor can like do some blood work on you, or you know, look at your history. Sorry, my dog is barking. It can give you some more insight as to like why that might be happening or things you can do. Moving past the fear of weight gain / accepting your weight restored self. This is another thing I could just make a whole video on, because there's just so many things. I think the fear of weight gain for many people, including me, is the hardest thing in recovery. This is what still occupies so many of my thoughts, and just like accepting my body now. You just have to keep remembering why you're doing this. You have to remember that like, yes, it sucks and it's scary, and you know, you might like to look a certain way, but it's just not worth the way that like you used to be living, and it's not worth sacrificing so much of your life, because even if it doesn't feel like it, this does have a huge impact on your life, and it really takes away from like your quality of life. Yes, you want to look a certain way, but that's just one aspect of like your life and goals that you have. So if you're using that one goal and sacrificing all your other goals just to attain that one goal, is it really worth it? That's how I think of it as. Yes, I would love to, you know, look different than I look right now, but is it worth giving up literally everything else? No, it's not. I think it's just kind of remembering where your priorities are, and also remembering that like eventually the more that you nourish your body, and the more, ew, I hate the word nourish, and the more that you stay in a healthy place or get to a healthy place, the easier it will be to accept your body, because you might not be thinking rationally right now. I remember I used to want to look like I did when I was at my worst, and now I look back and I was like, oh my gosh, I was so ugly. So you might not be thinking rationally right now, and what you might be seeing is probably not what you actually look like. You'll be able to see yourself more accurately and think more rationally when you're in a healthier place. Another person asked how to cope with weight gain, so I think that's pretty much the same thing, but also I think like wearing clothes that you're confident in can be really helpful. I see a lot of people who get stuck wearing like the same thing every day and just wearing like baggy clothes constantly. I wouldn't encourage that, but if it helps you in the short term, I think it can be good. But also like try to challenge clothes that make you like a little bit uncomfortable, like a little bit out of your comfort zone, but you don't have to be wearing things that you just don't like on yourself. I think like wearing outfits that I think looked good on my new body could be really helpful, and like throwing away clothes that didn't fit anymore, just like getting rid of them, because I would kind of keep them as like, oh, just in case like, you know, I lose weight again or whatever. But why? Like there's literally no purpose in that, you know. Sell them on eBay, get some money, or donate them to a thrift store. Like be a nice person, you know. So I think the clothes aspect can be a really big thing. And honestly, the biggest tip I think for coping with weight gain is if you have a scale, stop using it. I know that's so hard, like I know that's such a hard thing to do, but literally throw it away. Tell your parents to hide it from you, whatever. Like stop using it, because if you can see that number, you're going to hyperfixate on it most likely. So literally just stop using it, or if your doctor tells you, like ask them to stop telling you. Like eventually the the goal is to make peace with the scale, but in the short term, a lot of times that is just not really possible, and that's something that comes on later in recovery. Right now, I think the goal should just be to like take all the focus off of what you weigh. That is all the questions I'm gonna answer for today. I answered about half of the ones that I got. I'll answer the other half in another video just so that this video doesn't get too long, but I hope that this video was helpful. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them down below, or I will probably post another question box on my story eventually for people to send stuff in. So yeah, I really hope that some of this was helpful for you guys, and just remember again that I am not a professional, so none of this is meant to be medical advice. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!